y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my review of the Creepy Crawlies unit from Gather Round, so stick around. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. To give you a little background, Creepy Crawlies was our first main unit from Gather Round Homeschool. Now, we did complete the Ready to Read program, so we are not completely new to Gather Round, just to the big main units. There were some things that I liked with Creepy Crawlies, and there were some things I did not like. I think we would do better to start positive, and then we'll move on to the things we didn't necessarily like. I also asked my daughter, again, for those of you that are new, she's only 5, so take that into consideration when hearing her review. But I did ask her, and so I wrote down what things she had mentioned. I do have them written down on a piece of paper, so you'll see me looking down here. Things that I liked. Of course, I liked the illustrations and things like that. Across the board, that's one of my favorite things with Gather Round. I feel like that's something that kind of draws people in, is the artwork. And it was beautiful, did not disappoint. I didn't really think you could make bugs pretty, but they managed to do it. And we liked it. We enjoyed it. And so if you guys saw my video on my Plan With Me video, I will leave that up in the iCards for you and down in the description. That video, I showed how I planned this unit because, again, it being our first main unit, we were having a much larger reading from the teacher's guide than we were used to. So I had to kind of break things up and utilize pages and things like that. That worked well. And I'm okay with that. I didn't mind doing that. Because I was able to do that. You know, I was able to actually go through and make it work. And it flowed pretty good through the unit. You know, as we were physically going through, those breaks, they kind of worked and they came at good points. And my daughter was still able to retain a lot of the... I got a sticker for being good today. Sorry. Total sidetrack squirrel. So that did work well. The planning, you know, the taking the breaks in the notebook or in the teacher's guide and then doing the notebooking pages, that worked well. And I didn't mind that. I kind of liked it, or I liked that that was an option. Because had I not had the notebooking pages to kind of tie into the sections, I don't think we would have made it. I think she would have been, you know, way off in La La Land because it is quite a bit more reading than she was used to. So, okay, so this is kind of a like and a dislike, sort of. So in the teacher's guide, there will be a picture of an insect or bug or something that you're talking about. And on that is a diagram, and it points to the different body parts of the insect, and that's great and that's wonderful, and we go through them all. But a handful of times we would take that diagram, compare it to the cut and paste diagram that was in the student notebook, and sometimes that was really hard to do. Because the picture that was in the teacher's guide didn't necessarily match the picture that was in the student notebook, which in some instances was okay, but that got a little confusing for my daughter because she would see, you know, on the right side of the spider at the top, it's pointing to an eye. Well, but then we would go to the diagram in the student notebook and that would actually be pointing to a leg. Or something like that. So it kind of confused her, but we were able to work around. I don't know if it was intended that way. I don't know if it was intended to be different so that they really had to recognize the parts of the bug and not necessarily just where they're located on the page. I could see that potentially being the case, but it was confusing for her. And at her age, I feel like it's okay if we are just, copy pasting. That's essentially what we're doing anyway. But so kind of a like and a dislike. The other thing with the diagrams were sometimes they didn't all point to the right places. I can remember two specifically that the little pointers to the different parts were like, they made no sense. And so we just had to redraw them in. Still, it's okay. We drew them in, but definitely needs to be edited if it hasn't been already. It was confusing enough for the diagrams not to match each other. And then when we got to, this particular one, whichever one it was, then like even the little body parts aren't lining up with things. And so, yeah. So a like and a dislike. I like the idea, love the cut and paste and the matching kind of thing, but it didn't execute well for us in practice. And of course, we thought this unit was fun. It was actually kind of fun to learn about different bugs. I did appreciate the way it was kind of broken up. We did like bugs in the rainforest, bugs in the desert, that kind of thing. And it was fun. It was really quite interesting to learn about different bugs. So overall, it was enjoyable to read about. Of course, there were some parts where we both kind of cringed and were like, okay, I'll be okay if I never have to read that again, but it still was really enjoyable. And then one last thing I did like is that in lesson 20, so the last lesson of the unit is just a review, but they broke it up the same way essentially that I have broken up the rest of the unit. So again, if you did not watch the Plan With Me video, this probably does not make any sense to you. So I would watch that first and then come back. So lesson 20, it has you read a section and then you go and you fill out page 1. And then you come back, you read another section, you go and you fill out page 2. So by the time you are done with reading in lesson 20 in your teacher's guide, you're also done with all of your pages in the student notebook. And I just liked that. I feel like that was just a really good way to kind of wrap up the unit and end, kind of with a good, nice review. So I did enjoy that. Now, as for my daughter, these were, did she say 2? Yeah, okay, so these were her two favorite things about Creepy Crawlies. She loved the bug jar. So basically we have just like a little glass mason jar, and on every notebooking page you had to pick a fact and then write it on a piece of paper, and you put it in the bug jar, and then you could go back and read the different facts of the different bugs. She enjoyed that. She did like that. And she did not let me miss a single one because I had to write the facts. So she made sure that I wrote them down. She said she did like doing the labeling, the different diagrams, like I said. And she said she liked some of the experiments that we did, learning about the bullet ant, the fireflies, and the glowworms. Okay, so moving on to things that we didn't like or that didn't necessarily work for us. The main one for me was seat work. And I think that's mainly because I didn't put much thought in planning into it. I just kind of printed it out and we just kind of went with it. But what I did was I printed out 5 pages for week 1, 5 pages for week 2, week 3, week 4, and week 5. So my thought was for 5 weeks, we'll do 1 seat work journal page every morning as part of our morning binder. Okay, that seems reasonable. However, it doesn't line up if you're only doing 4 weeks. So if you, in the way that the student notebook is kind of set up is for a Monday through Thursday, and then for 5 weeks. Well, I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted to do Monday through Friday for 4 weeks and then give ourselves a week break before we start into a new unit. You certainly can do that, but that's where the issue comes in with the seat work journal, because I had printed out 5 days worth, right? Because we are going to be doing the unit for 5 days. But there is vocabulary in the seat work journal and also in the notebook, in the student notebook. And the further along you get, the more mix matched those became. Because we would be in week 2, and so we have week 2's vocabulary, but then we'll just say on Thursday, we're doing our student notebook, and now we're just now being introduced to week 2's spelling. And then the timing did not work out well. And then we got all crisscrossed, and then we ended up not even being able to do week 4 of the seat work journal, because then I tried to match it up with what we were doing. I tried to match the spelling up with what we were doing, and it did not work for us. So I do like the seat work journal, and I do really like the calendar work and the copy work. All those things were great, and we enjoyed those, and I am certainly going to be using them going forward into artists. It's just the spelling got mixed up, and so I've just got to do a little bit more planning to figure out how we can work through that and see if maybe there's another system I can come up with. From what I have seen, I think Gather Round has kind of mitigated this issue, or they've kind of changed it, because I've noticed for some of the most recent units that have come out, they're actually creating a seat work journal that you can purchase separately. And I think that is like per lesson, I believe. I don't know exactly because I don't have any of those yet. So I think, and that is one thing that I appreciate with Gather Round is, you get to bring issues to them, and they really try and do a good job of figuring out ways to kind of navigate all of these big things that, that moms are saying, this is working, this isn't, all that stuff. Yep. So turned out to be a little bit of a mess. But I do want to utilize it in our upcoming unit of artists. I've just got to do some maneuvering and kind of figure out how I'm going to make that work. And to go along with that, the spelling for the early reader, to me, was way too difficult. We had furlough, although, thought, there were, and those are just coming to my brain because those are just like the most recent ones that we did. That to me, for a spelling, that was extremely difficult. Now I get it because it's the OUGH, but we're just coming out of Ready to Read. So those were some big words for my little girl. So I didn't stress the spelling too much, which is kind of went with the seat work. It was getting messed up, and then the words were too hard. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm not even worried about it. Let's just do the calendar work, because that was that was definitely something I wanted to do every day, and do the copy work. And then I'm good with that. There also was an option for vocabulary, you can just do extra vocabulary. And I had this rainbow thing. You guys may remember it from up here. I have actually moved it to another spot, and I put shelves here, but anyway, so I was going to make these note cards, and it was going to be so great, and we were going to work on vocabulary. Turns out I can't do that because somehow they got all mixed up. The word was not matching the definition on the back, and then I reprinted, and then it wasn't doing, and it just got too much. So instead, since all of the vocabulary words were still the vocabulary words, we just use those kind of as sight words for the unit. So every week I would add in a new, the new set of vocabulary words for that week, and we would just kind of go through them and read them. So we did sort of like a sight word. I'm not big on flashcards, really. At least I haven't been up to this point, but I am seeing where they could be extremely useful. And I feel like maybe for vocabulary, it would be nice, even if it just came in the teacher's guide, even if there were just printables in the teacher's guide, I feel like maybe that would be really nice. And maybe not even necessarily for the older grades, because, maybe they could look them up and a dictionary or something like that. But I feel like maybe at least for like early reader, early elementary, maybe even upper elementary, just like a page or two of the little flashcards for the vocab would be helpful. And then as far as my daughter is concerned, her dislikes with the unit was, she said the spelling was hard, which yes, the spelling was difficult. And I didn't really require that of her. In the Seat Work Journal, I had printed out some word searches, and I had printed out like an unscramble the word. And those, we just did those together, and I just kind of counted that as spelling, and that was really it. We just did those two things, and we didn't do anything else as far as spelling or any of that stuff. And then also she said that it was a lot of writing. That's because she still is, like I said, she's only 5. And so it feels like a lot for her. She's just starting to get into where she actually has to write answers and things like that. So that's still something that we're working on. I don't push it much because, again, she is only 5. So to her, it felt like a lot of writing. But it's good that I know that, because as we go forward, I kind of know where she is. And that's really what this whole year is going to be, is us just kind of figuring out the flow and what works for us and what doesn't work, what's too much, what's too little, all of that stuff. So overall, we enjoyed Creepy Crawlies. There were some things we had to work around. There were some things that just really did not work for us. But overall, we enjoyed it. And I feel like it was a good start to our first unit with the big main units. My main concern was getting through the teacher's guide reading, and I feel like I did pretty good with that. So I'm going to take that and I will put that into our next unit, which is going to be artists, and I am so excited for that one. So if you are not already subscribed and you want to see inside of artists, that video will be coming out next Tuesday. I will have a flip through for you guys. And then next Thursday, I will show you some of the books and some of the fun extra things that I have set out for that unit. So if you want to check those out, make sure you are subscribed. And if you hit the little notification bell, it will actually let you know when those videos are posted. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.